Action. Now action? Take
Now.
two?
Take
3?
Go.
Okay. All right, we got it. And now step 2. Hey y'all, Pastor Emil here with another episode of Sweet Jesus. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, dessert is sweet, but Jesus is sweeter. And I am excited because I've got 2 guests for the first time, and we've been trying to figure out the technical issues involved with that. Hopefully all the sound comes in well and everything's great. But I'm looking forward to hearing them talk about how sweet Jesus is. And they also are the first guests that have something sweet in front of them. It's not ice cream, but we had a Thanksgiving feast across the street at the Child Development Center. Miss Janet over there did a great job getting together quite a feast for the staff over there. I had lunch and they had a lot of extra pie. So I had pecan pie. I still have a little bit of pecan pie, actually, so pardon me if I take a bite here. And we've got some pecan pie, I already said pecan pie, pumpkin pie for Derrick and Vicki here.
Mm-hmm.
This is really good.
Pumpkin.
Good stuff?
It's delicious.
Mm. Mix it with the pecan. Mm.
Mm. So if you are listening or watching, go grab something sweet. Grab some dessert, grab some ice cream, some pie, some cookies, and taste and see that the Lord is good.
Amen.
Amen. So, you guys have a number of stories I've heard. We are not going to get them all in. But let's start just generally. What is it that makes Jesus so sweet for you? What's your, just your general kind of, this is why Jesus is the best thing ever. Better than pumpkin pie. Better than pumpkin and pecan pie mixed together. I've never tried that, by the way.
It's delicious.
Oh, I wonder about that.
Well, you got all the pumpkin pie already. I'll
I
try
haven't
it
touched that
another time.
corner if you want to.
That's okay.
I'm gonna try it right now.
Okay.
All right, that's a little pumpkin and a little bit pecan. And let's see. Watch my face. Oh, very different.
Very different.
It's sweeter and better.
Sweeter and better.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm,
You want to answer that question?
Yeah, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Ladies first.
I got to take a couple of bites of my pie.
Yeah, take a couple bites. Look, Jesus is sweet to me for so many reasons that definitely Pastor Emil said there's not enough time for anybody really. But the fact that I am still alive today, despite a lot of different things that have happened to me throughout my life, all up to this point in time, and just the grace that has been given to me, and of course, where I work is the ICU, and I see so much, but it is Jesus that gets me through those days and moments.
Yeah, how? How exactly? I mean, if you think about people that may know Jesus, go to church, some people that may know Jesus but don't go to church, and thank you for that. And some people that may not know Jesus and, may think kind of not so nice things about people that claim to know Jesus. How is it that, what is it that Jesus brings to those situations? What is it that you think about? What is it that changes how you think or changes how you feel?
I've had those situations happen too, where they don't believe in Jesus. They just believe in evolution, all that stuff. But they get angry with me, and I just try to just step back, and actually in my mind I'm taking a breath because I'm like, oh Lord, help me, and I just smile, and I'm just nice, and I just do what I need to do as part of my job. If they don't believe in prayer, I'm still saying a prayer for them in my mind, and usually most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, they calm down. After I may, can I say a prayer for you? And some actually get pretty angry, but they calm down and they realize I'm not there to try to convert them. But in my prayer in my mind, I am trying. So.
So when you have a tricky situation or the stress of the ICU, what is it that you think Jesus brings to you that sort of helps alleviate the stress and the anxiety? What is it that Jesus...
It's the peace and the calmness, and knowing that he's got my back and he's got everybody's back there. Sometimes I will walk through the unit and I'll pray as I'm walking through the unit, especially in a really bad day, and it helps. You can feel the change in the atmosphere, so to speak. And even the nurses you can see that they're de-stressing at that moment too. It's really amazing to see. It's really amazing to see.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how much Jesus does that you can't necessarily explain, that he does just kind of bring a peace that, hey, someone else is worrying about this. I don't have to. Someone else is in charge of this, and it's all going to be okay. And you can't really communicate that. You can't analyze it and put it down in a 5-point presentation and say, hey, well, this is why. But there is something about Jesus and praying and all these things that seems to work.
I was asked one time, why do you smile so much? I said, because I got Jesus. So,
right?
Yeah.
And then, sometimes they'll be like, yeah, and they'll engage in conversation, and others just like, oh, okay.
Which is so ironic to me because, when I hear from people that don't know Jesus, outside the church, all that kind of stuff, they tend to think of Christians as angry people. And that's not to say that there aren't angry Christians out there and that there aren't people, well, certainly all Christians come across in unhelpful ways. Every one of us does at some point. But to think that that's the actual trend, like if you believe in Jesus, that makes you nasty and angry. No, actually, in your day-to-day experience, generally, when I bump into people that are generally friendly and they smile so much, I bet they're a Christian, and they usually are. There's a light,
I agree.
There's something to them. So, not something you can quantify, not something, again, you can put into a nice little presentation and prove in some sort of way, but Jesus just does something. And so if somebody's out there stressed out and angry, and hey, we don't exactly have a proven formula other than just to say that the common denominator seems to be Jesus, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree.
How about you, Derrick? What's so sweet about Jesus? What makes Jesus so sweet? Sweeter than pumpkin and pecan pie combined here.
Well, since I was a young child, basically I've always had the presence of God, Jesus, in me, and I always felt it. And even as a child, I'm talking like 8 years old, that kind of thing. They had a church at the end of our street that, my mom at that point, she didn't go to church anymore, but she grew up going to church and stuff. But at that point, she didn't go. So I asked my mom if I could go to the church down the street, like 3 blocks, walking distance. And so she let me go, and being a child, I probably talked a little too much. They said, oh, you can't come into the main thing by yourself. You got to have an adult. And then I wound up going to Sunday school, and then I didn't last that long. But there's many other stories. But the reality is Jesus has always been present with me in everything I did all through time, since I've been alive, 58 years. And Jesus is a reassuring friend, All right. So when I say that, I'm talking about anytime I got a question, or if I'm getting angry and I shouldn't be, or if I'm being too much bragging or whatever, Jesus is always there in the background, talking to me and kind of telling me like what you should be doing and what you should be saying and what you shouldn't be saying. So Jesus is sweet because he's like a really good friend that is always, always with me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's like a total gift from God that Jesus can be here and be that kind of a friend. And if you're out there and you don't know Jesus, just start talking to him and he'll talk to you back. I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing the opportunities I have. I think we tend to take it for granted. We take prayer for granted. But if you've ever, and I'm sure you have, just the way you guys pray, you have a prayer page on Facebook. Anybody can kind of contribute, ask for a prayer, and you guys pray those things. It's awesome. It's amazing. But I have prayed so often. I pray in public, right, all the time. I'm a pastor. You guys pray together with other people in church. You do it often, right? I think we underestimate how powerful it is when we start praying with somebody that doesn't normally pray or has never prayed before. I don't know if you've ever had the experience where like you're done praying, you're like, hey, let me pray for you, let's pray right now. You pray, and then you open your eyes, you look over, they're like crying, and they're just overwhelmed by this presence of a real personal God, right? Somebody that just showed up. It's not just somebody up in the sky. It's somebody that's right here, right next to you. That happens to me every time I pray with someone that hasn't prayed in a long time. It always feels different. It's like God makes sure he shows up in a way that you could not mistake it. And it even happens to me where I go, whoa, that was a bigger prayer than a normal prayer. You know, that was something special.
Yeah. This sounds like that the one man that was at the karaoke. Derrick and him were talking, and
3 months ago,
and he came back to. He saw us a couple weeks later, and he said, because 2 weeks prior he had said, "I'm going to pray for you."
Because that's when I just was getting over COVID.
And
we'll get to that.
A couple weeks later, he comes back to us, and he looked like a changed person. And he said, I haven't prayed in years, and you got me back to praying to God. And he had tears in his eyes, and I had goosebumps.
And I just basically told him what I experienced in a hospital with God, Jesus, about the things that happened to me while I had COVID and the amount of praying I was doing, which wasn't constant. But he gave me inspiration too, because he went to Jesus and he prayed for the first time in decades, he said. And by doing that, and all it takes is to start praying, Jesus opened his mind up to praying even more. And now I'm hoping, and I still think he's doing it as a daily prayer at least. I think he's all about that at this point in his life. He's an older guy. He's probably like 65, 70 or something like that.
Yeah. And in a time where, we're in Louisiana where, according to most Louisianans, COVID doesn't exist. It's not a thing. We're just, hey, let's just pretend life is normal again. You know what? I don't have a big problem with that right now. I think we're all anxious to get back to that. So, but I just mentioned that because there are a lot of people that might listen, that might tune in, and they're going to go, but wait, I'm still basically on lockdown. Not exactly, but it probably feels closer to that than anything we've experienced here in Louisiana. I've got family in Ohio, I've got family in New York, we've got family all over the country, mostly in the north.
Yeah, Vicki's from Ohio.
And, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so, in a time where you're not interacting, and I have friends that are talking about, sending around all these memes on a group text about Andrew Cuomo canceling Thanksgiving and canceling Christmas, and the police are going to be checking out to see how many cars you got in your driveway, how many people you got in your house, and
It's terrible.
it's kind of crazy. Yes, I mean I guess I see the point, but it is really crazy. So in a time where you feel more isolated, where you feel more alone, I think it's probably more powerful than ever to think that there's a God, there's a someone, there's a friend, like you said, right next to you all the time, and you can talk to him, and it doesn't make you crazy. You're not talking to yourself. There's actually a person there who cares, who listens.
So I just want to go back a little bit. So probably 30 years ago, it's the 30-year anniversary of me praying every single day. And you're supposed to go to your closet. It says in the Bible. So my closet is the bathroom when I take my shower. That's my closet. So I do my prayers, and I reached my 30-year anniversary in the spring. Thought back to it, and I'm like, okay, that's awesome. I've been doing this for 30 years every day. So then it wasn't long after that, for probably the previous year, I kept getting the little message. I guess I was being a little stubborn with Jesus. I don't know, but he said to make this prayer page, and because I always pray with individuals on their own pages when they requested a prayer. Mm-hmm. So I would do prayers for them, and I'm thinking. Then one day I'm driving down Front Street, and when you get the message from Jesus, you better just listen, because he said pull over. So I pulled over into the Walgreens parking lot, and to show you how things are weird and how the devil is trying to always intervene, I started to set up the Facebook page for the Need a Prayer page. And so it doesn't take long, like a minute or two, you can set up a page. Yeah, I put the information in, and I clicked, submit, and it didn't go through. And I'm like, what's going on? So I did it again, and long story short, the third time, it still wasn't accepting the page. And I was like, this is unusual. And I literally said, okay, devil, you're not going to win. I rebuke you. Jesus, help me do this page. And on the fourth time it took, well, ever since February, the page has grown to pretty good membership. 413 members right now. It was 414, but somebody dropped out. I don't know why, but they didn't want to be in it. So, say la vie.
Don't take it personally.
No, because we've had a couple other dropouts too, but that's all right. I don't, if there's only 2 people in there, it'd be great.
Well, look, because if it only takes one little tiny seed to enter that person that had joined and then dropped out.
Right.
Years from now, we never know. So.
Yeah, maybe they started their own prayer page.
True.
Yeah, and I'm glad. Yeah. And I really hope that happens. Yeah. I have no problem with that. People want to do a prayer page, because I'm sure there's many other prayer groups on Facebook, of course. And all that stuff, so we're not the only ones. But I'm glad that I consider the prayer page one of the most important things I've ever done in my life, is doing that prayer page, because people come to the page and they asking for some serious prayers,
and
whether it's
desperate, desperate, for
whether it's medical
divine intervention
or on a personal nature, or whatever it is, and they ask. Some of them are anonymous, and they ask for them, and you can remain anonymous, and then they come back, months, weeks later, whatever, and they say their prayers were answered. So Jesus works the page. I don't work the page. We set the page up, and Jesus will answer the prayers, and you just got to ask. And I encourage everybody to go to the prayer page.
Jesus, his name's on the line. He comes through.
Mm-hmm.
Not always the
I
way
love
we
Jesus.
want,
Yeah.
But there is something about, if nothing else, just the power of his presence, just knowing he's there, he's listening, he cares, is tremendous. It's huge.
Right. Sometimes when I'm doing my morning prayers, I'll ask Jesus. I'll say, Jesus, I need some spiritual discernment. And I'll ask a question, and then I get these answers. And immediately, it's really a personal, one-on-one conversation that's happening. And he'll answer me. And some people that don't believe, they will say, well, you would have thought about that anyway, or well, it was going to happen anyway, whatever they want to come up with as an excuse. But the reality is, it did happen, and it was Jesus, and I know the difference. And if you pray enough, you know the difference when Jesus is talking to you, or when you just got your own cockamamie idea.
Yeah. Just the sheer volume sometimes of the coincidences. You know, I can totally see where people would, try to be very rational and try to be, very resistant to faith, to the divine, supernatural stuff. They would look at it just as a coincidence. I can see that. And I do think sometimes we make a big deal out of things that we probably shouldn't necessarily make a big deal out of.
Mm-hmm.
That every good and perfect gift is from God, and so we should give Him the credit all the time for everything good. But,
Exactly.
But I do think we overdo it to try and make a point that may or may not be there. So I kind of get why people push back, but it just happens so often. Like, it can't possibly always be a coincidence.
Right.
It just can't.
No,
so true.
it's not. People
That's
wanna,
so true.
non-believers are on the cuff. They want to think like that, but they got to open their minds up to God. They got to open their minds up to Jesus. I mean, it's not like he was a fictional character like a lot of people say. There's documented proof through stories that makes the Bible. So the same thing when you go to a court case. People are telling their version of a story for the testimony, and either you're going to believe it or not. Well, they telling a story, and it's the same thing as writing your testimony in the Bible, in which they did. So people who want to say something like, oh, well, it couldn't have happened because that was 2,000 years ago. Well, it did happen.
Well, and one of the things that I think is there's some really good stuff out there about this specific issue. Some of it's very deep and dense and, academic sounding. Sometimes it's even hard for me to kind of slug through. I have a seminary education, I have a master's degree, and I struggle to parse the finer points of what they talk about. But a lot of times when people do what you're talking about, what they're trying to do is take God and take biblical history and treat it as if it's a science experiment, right?
Exactly.
And that's not what it is.
No.
And we don't hold, American history to the level of a science experiment type proof, right? I think we all kind of agree George Washington was the first president of the United States. Ben Franklin and some of these other founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, all these people, right? And Abraham Lincoln, Civil War, he was president, and he got shot, and we don't have the kind of evidence that they're demanding of Christians, of people of faith, for those things either. And I guess my point is, it's a different kind of evidence. It's a different kind of defense. It's a historical. How do you define history? How do you determine what happened and what didn't happen? And the only evidence or the only real helpful explanation, the only explanation that makes any sense for the existence of the church at all, for the existence of this faith, Christian faith, going through first few centuries, where they were trying everything they could to do everything they could to kill us, to kill our brothers and sisters.
They sure did.
And they did, a lot of them, and then it just kept going.
Well, here's something I want to say real quick before I forget my thought. When I was in nursing school, I had a lot of studying to do, but I had heard about a text called the Summa Theologica. And so basically I started to read it, and it's about proving the existence of God. And Ignatius, what's his name? Pastor, I don't remember. Ignatius or something that wrote it.
Sounds like
look it up.
Thomas Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I couldn't think of it for a second. He wrote it. So if you're on a doubt and you're just that kind of person where you want to have, where's the proof? Well, besides God being in front of your face, which he really is, if you open your eyes and you read this text, you're going to have all the proof you need, the existence of God. This Thomas Aquinas, he had a really good grasp on the written word. And it was written several hundred years, 300 years, whatever, 400 years ago. But it's such a good text. And just read it and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really will open your eyes to the existence of God if you're on the fence.
There's a Bible passage, I think it's in Ecclesiastes, I'm pretty sure it's in Ecclesiastes, I'm not thinking of where, I think it actually comes up a lot. There's nothing new under the sun. Every objection, every possible way of trying to think about the existence of God, how it makes sense and all that. People have been asking those questions for a really long time. It's not like suddenly, 21st century Americans started going, maybe we should question this.
Right. Right.
That's true.
As if we're the only people in history that have ever had brains.
Yeah, all the other countries. But Vicki's got a really interesting story.
I do.
Yeah, when we was in Fairbanks, Alaska, we used to hang out with the military guys at the bowling alley doing karaoke. And so
Yeah, we're all about karaoke. So.
we love the karaoke. But anyway, so we made friends with these about 15, 20 military guys and one of the military girls, and we would do the karaoke. One of them was a little cray-cray, and Vicki's going to carry that.
So basically, we were their parents, and they were our kids while we were there. We loved them. And anyways, I'm not going to say his name in case he's watching.
No names.
I'm not saying him. But anyways, he is a Luciferian.
Wow.
And we had some pretty interesting conversations with him. And one night he shows up with this crucifix that's upside down.
But the whole Luciferian outfit, basically.
Yeah.
And his friends, wait a minute. His friend says he's just crazy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But he's not crazy. He's just
Confused.
that one thing is just confused. Yes. So, anyways, he's wearing this upside down crucifix, and I said to him, I says, it might be upside down to us, but to you, it's right side up. He didn't know what to say.
Because when he looks at it, like this, he's looking down at the upside right crucifix, and
so
he was speechless.
yeah, yeah, for the first time.
Oh
he was
yeah, he was
speechless.
pretty talkative.
Yeah, he didn't know what to say after that, but he, we still would have great conversations with him.
Yeah, we didn't hold anything against him.
hoping that little seed sprouts someday for him.
So next time you run into somebody, I just thought of this.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this ahead of time, so this is all
This is off the hook.
spontaneous. It's all organic. I think it's Saint Peter. All of the disciples go. They have miserable and tragic and awful deaths, right? And I'm pretty sure Saint Peter. The tradition is that he felt so unworthy, especially after denying Christ and all that even after Christ forgives him, that kind of comes at the end of the Gospel of John, chapter 21, where he said, "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?" Kind of 3 times, just like he denied him 3 times. But he still had this, I am not worthy. That when they were going to kill him, they were going to crucify him, and he insisted that they crucify him upside down because he didn't want to be in the same category as Christ. He wasn't worthy enough to be on a cross like Christ, so they had him crucified upside down. So next time, you can just say, a St. Peter's cross.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
You like St. Peter?
That's a great idea. Oh, I love that.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty sure it's Peter. There's a church. I think it was St. Peter's Lutheran in Huntington, New York. I just remember, I see the picture. They had them all over, signs like, here's where you go for this, here's where you go for that. And it was a cross. It was an upside down cross. And I asked, what was that about? And, they tell me the tradition of he just...
Well, we think that eventually the seed that we planted and Vicki planted in that sentence, we think he's going to eventually, that seed's going to sprout. And sometimes it takes a long time for a seed to sprout, but God is good. And he will sprout that seed. And if you're watching, you know who we're talking about. Amen.
We can pray for him. We'll keep praying.
Yeah.
So, you had a story. You guys both had COVID at some point.
Yeah, this
In
summer.
July.
This is I shouldn't be in the same room as you, I guess.
No, we're good. We're good. We're the safest people to
We
be
are
around.
the safest people to be around.
And I just read that last night. They're doing a new study. They're saying that people that have COVID now have probably immunity for years.
Well, that's good.
We just read it. They sampled about 1,000 people basically, and like 8-9 months after their initial COVID episode, and they're saying that the T cells, the immune memory cells, are really producing, and the other B cells that help produce the antibodies are producing the antibodies in such a way, in such a sheer number, that it's confounding them. Now, that's the words from the story. What I've been praying basically almost every day is for the people with COVID is the Lord give a delivery of COVID, from COVID, and confound the experts. So every time I say a specific word,
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone's kind of got their heads.
I'm not saying it's me. The Lord is answering prayers, everybody's prayers. So I'm sure everybody has a story about they asked the Lord, especially about this COVID, to do something, and He is doing it. And just think about it. In a record-setting amount of time, they're almost developed a vaccine basically in less than a year.
Yeah.
I mean, record-setting, and not just one lab, like multiple laboratories.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's God intervening in the brains of the scientists to do the right stuff, to think of the right things, to put the things together that they got to put together. So the Lord works like that. Sure, I believe that.
Yeah.
He could just wipe it out with a word, but hey, nothing wrong with working for it.
Well, and we talked about prayer a little bit earlier, and the way you just told that story, talking in a very specific way about prayer, people that are kind of questioning prayer or not sure, aren't praying enough, I'd encourage some very specific, I'm praying this, like confound the experts kind of prayer.
Yeah, the Lord says to pray specifically for what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, be very direct and ask Him instead of convoluted way, but ask specifically, and that's what I do, and I try to always remember to do it. And that's why on a prayer page, I make them short and sweet, because, Pastor Emil, I know you like to write a lot on your prayers, and I read them, but I keep my prayers a little bit shorter, and either way's fine.
Yeah.
But I just think that...
Well, you do an awful lot more.
Not that much.
You're putting out a lot more prayers than I am.
Well,
I haven't even done one in a week and a half or more now, so...
Well, I think it's God. Just God works in me. Like, He just tells me to do it. I did it, and a lot of times when I write the daily prayer, I don't even know what I'm going to say, and I don't even know the topic, and all of a sudden, it comes to me, and then I start writing, and I'm like, okay. And the only thing I really do after that is edit for the content to make it readable.
I've done kind of a similar thing. In my defense.
Don't be defensive. No, I love your prayers.
I'm not defensive.
Yeah, I love your prayers.
But when I do those prayers, my prayers are not serving the same purpose that yours are. Of course, it's a prayer, but mine tend to be more of like a devotional also.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to instruct
I love them.
and educate and encourage while I'm doing it in the form of a prayer.
No, I love your prayers.
Which is why they go longer, but there have been a few where I'm like, that was too long.
Well, I just look at people's attention span.
So,
they're not that long, but in a general way.
I know. I get it.
So back to the COVID. When I got COVID, I was trying to self-treat at home for about 9 days with some prescriptions.
Yeah, I got some doctors to write some stuff out.
And so it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so because it wasn't working, I just kept getting worse.
Yeah, so let me tell.
Okay, go ahead, baby.
So the very first time that I took him to the hospital, now, all the nurses pretty much have PTSD. And I get him to the hospital, and I know he hadn't gotten tested, but from every symptom that he had, I knew he had it.
All right.
So I get him there to the hospital. This is on a Saturday. And they didn't do the basic labs that they use for COVID patients. They just did regular labs. And then they did a chest x-ray. Didn't show much. There was a little tiny bit in the base of his lungs. That was it. they sent him home, and I'm like, whoa. So, but anyways, I'm out in the car while he's inside,
And I was so sick.
and I am just bawling. I am bawling, and I cry.
Come on, baby. She was so upset for me because I was really sick.
So I call his brother, and he, very good Christian man, and I was like, okay, Brian, help me through this. So he's talking to me the whole time. Derrick's in there, and I'm like, okay, I hope he gets admitted, but they didn't admit him. But Brian was able to, through prayer, help me calm down, tell me some scriptures, and then I was able to get it together to realize, wait, why was I so upset? Because God is always in control of everything.
That's right.
And I should have been leaving it in his hands, but I was so overwhelmed with what could potentially happen.
Because she knows all those nightmares
Yeah.
of ICU.
So
Yeah.
then, fast forwarding, I wanted to take him back to the hospital on Sunday. No. I don't want to go. Monday morning, I had to help him get dressed and walk to the car. He says, take me to the hospital. He was worse.
Than the 2 days before. It was so bad.
I was calm. Because I don't know if that Saturday was a precursor to what it was really going to be, but I was very calm. I was okay. And I was at peace because I knew God was in control.
Listen, I know that 99 point whatever % of the people aren't really that affected by COVID. It's a mild to almost nothing for them. But for the ones who do get it, and they got these symptoms, and I was one of them, and I didn't get intubated, but I was very close. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, not even a worse person. But anyway, so is that 30 minutes?
Wow.
Oh my Lord!
It goes fast, though.
We're just getting started.
We're going to lose space on the hard drive here, and my phone is going to.
So let me make it really fast then.
No, tell the story. We're okay with this, but we are going to have to move towards that.
So I get admitted finally, and for the first 3-4 days, my lungs are shrinking, and I wound up having respiratory failure, double pneumonia, etc. And over a 4-day period, of the chest X-ray, my lungs, they shrunk about a third. So
yeah, instead of being like this, they're basically up to here.
Right, you can see it on the X-ray very clearly. The whole entire time, I'm praying intently, like a lot, just almost continuous. And I had the TV on, but the volume was off, and most of it, 99% of the time, I didn't even watch it. But at a certain point, I asked God I didn't know if this was possible to do it yourself. So because I had no visitors, not even my wife could come see me, and she works there. So I asked the Lord, I said, can I lay hands on my own chest? And that's what I did. The Lord told me immediately, yeah, do it. And then when he gave me that permission, then I asked Jesus to put his hands on top of mine. And so I said a prayer, and within just a few hours, the request for plasma that the doctor had put in for me, that had to be reviewed.
2 days prior?
Yeah, that had to be reviewed by a board at the main campus in New Orleans. It got approved, and within a few hours of getting approved, they had the plasma infusing into me. Now, people will say, well, that's just the plasma that healed you. No, I'm going to tell you a little bit. Plasma is God-given and God-sent. And so within just not even like 24, 30 hours, I started to feel a difference in my health. I'm not talking like, I was dancing, nothing. I just knew that it was working. So then I get out the hospital after 7 days, a little bit, and I went home with oxygen. Then I had my checkup 9 days after my discharge, and me and the doctor was talking. She had the COVID too, like 3 months before me. She's a wonderful Dr. Hansen, if y'all ever need a pulmonologist. But anyway, so we were just chit-chatting a little bit. She said, you were the last person to get plasma, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get plasma for my patient today. So I attribute that, and people will say whatever they want to say. That's my miracle that God gave me to get the last dosages of plasma at that hospital in the last previous 9 days. Now, I know probably more people's gotten plasma, but thank God I was able to get the plasma that made me get healed through Jesus. Through Jesus. And so that's what I really believe in. I'm still recovering. though I'm probably, people ask me how far along are you, probably like 98%, 97%. It's just more of the energy level, the core. I call it like you work a hard day and then you feel tired. That's one thing. This is like a deeper in my engine, so to speak. I still have a weakness, and I'm not totally 100% over it, but I know it's been 4 months now, basically around today, and I am better, much better, and I can sing and dance and stuff, but I'm still got a little bit left in me that trying to get over the hump.
Yeah.
And while he was in there, of course, you would have thought with me working with all the COVID patients that I would have gave it to him, but no, he gave it to me.
Probably, but I hope I didn't.
Yeah.
And so I was.
2 peas in a pod. Anyway.
I started getting symptoms about 5 days after his symptoms had started, and so of course I'm quarantining at home now. I can't work, and I had different symptoms from him, but talking about the prayer page, when he wasn't able to do it, I was like, I got to take care of this page while he can't, and so I was doing the daily prayers, and then also praying for other people that were asking for prayer requests, and then of course just taking care of me at the same time.
Yeah, my poor wife was
it was
alone.
so hard. People would bring things over and they'd drop it at the door, and I'd go to the door and they'd be running back to their vehicle.
That was funny.
Was
Even
funny.
when I got home, they would
But I
do
was
that.
so grateful
Yeah.
for all the help that everybody gave, and people that would drop stuff off at the hospital for Derrick, and all the prayers that they had for us too. And
Yeah, I just
I
want to say.
was more worried about him than I was for me. But when he did get discharged 3 days earlier than I thought he was, I was like, okay, God, how am I going to take care of him and me? But it worked out.
Yeah, I just want to say I really had every kind of symptom you could think of, except for a couple things. But I really had all the symptoms and then a few extras that can only have come from the COVID, because I'm fairly healthy and I don't have anything, comorbidities basically. But I had a couple things. But what I want to say back to the prayer page is, Vicki put the word out that I needed prayers, and literally hundreds and hundreds of prayers were said. And when I was in a hospital bed, I felt all those prayers in a deep personal way. So I want to thank everybody that prayed for me, because I know I felt it. I felt the prayers. And when someone says they want some prayers, pray for them, because they're not asking just for fun. They really need them. And so I know that I felt the prayers so deeply and spiritually, and I never stopped praying. And I want to say I never gave up, and I really said, Lord, if it's your will for me not to make it, so be it. I mean, that's the way. But thank you, Lord, for publicly for making me live, because that was a terrible thing. It was bad. Bad.
Yeah.
There's a prayer in a pastor's handbook. I think it's called the Pastoral Care Companion is the book that I'm thinking of, that I used to carry around with me. I use a lot for a lot of different things. There's different prayers for different situations, and it's got Bible passages for specific kinds of situations too. And there was one prayer, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes, but it's something along the lines of what you said, or at least what you said made me think of it, and it was, grant them healing, grant them restoration, that for a particular person, right, you're praying for this person, that they might continue to declare your praises, right? And so I use that a lot now to, hey, this is for you, Lord. This is for your glory, your purposes. We're all going to die one of these days, and hopefully it's later than sooner, but give us an opportunity to give you some glory.
Yeah, well, what you said about a month ago, I think, in church, doing service, and then when I'm about glorifying God, and then I listen to, when I'm picking Vicki up, Pastor, I think it's Phil Gephardt, on a Christian radio station, and he's on like from 7 to 7:25. I love him. I never met him, but he's so good. If you never heard him, listen to him. got such a way to talk, and he's from Metairie, I think, but he's got that kind of gravelly kind of voice, and but anyway, he was doing sermons about glorifying God, and so for the last month, I just say, even if you're sick and you die, it's all to glorify God, because somewhere out there, someone more or less probably prayed for you, and that prayer glorified God. Mm. Your death is glorifying God. Jesus' death glorified God. It had to happen, and nobody could have stopped it from happening. And because of that, we're all saved. So, I just think that whatever happens, negative, positive, and even with the election, whatever's going to happen, the Bible says specifically God puts those in power that needs to be in power. So, y'all just go with that one.
I was going to say that my smell and taste is almost back 100%. And I got to say that there are some perks to not having smell on the job.
Nursing job, yeah, for sure.
I can understand why that would be a thing. Yeah. So there's a passage I'm trying to find. Jesus predicts his death. Okay, yeah, here it is. John chapter 12. It relates to kind of what you're doing, like whether I live or die, sort of. Now there were some Greeks among those who went up to worship at the feast. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, with a request. Sir, we would like to see Jesus, they said. Philip went to tell Andrew. Andrew and Philip in turn told Jesus, and then this is Jesus' reply. The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. I tell you the truth, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. And the man who loves his life will lose it, while the man who hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. That idea of sometimes a death of a person, of a relationship, of some other thing, a career path, whatever, I don't know, I'm not thinking of other examples, but sometimes when those things die, when they end, they actually wind up bearing more fruit than if they would have, right? So sometimes we glorify God in life, sometimes we glorify God in death, sometimes we glorify God when certain things continue, sometimes we glorify God when certain things come to an end, and we just got to kind of trust that He's in charge, He knows what He's doing, and even if we die, we never really die.
Yeah, and I want to say one crazy thing. Evolution, even if evolution is true, just to remember, God created evolution, if it's true. God created everything. So if it is true, God created it.
Well, and I think there's different elements of evolution. So the idea that we came from nothing, that part I kind of reject. But the idea that there is some process by which life adapts and changes.
We came from dust, and Eve came from the rib. So
well, yeah, and so in some ways, evolution is like, we did come from nothing, but
God's made that nothing.
God did it, right?
And the animals too.
Just spontaneous, like you don't see that in the natural world. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, God created everything. So when people argue over nonsense things or whatever, scientific versus proof, just remember, even if you don't agree with a certain thing because it's not scientifically, whatever it is, even if you're right, God created it. So you can't, that's the way it is.
And we could spend a lot of time talking about
that.
Right. We're not going to, but evolution, the one thing that always boggles my mind is the people that tend to be the most supportive of, sort of macro evolution, like everything was just sort of an accident and just sort of spontaneously happened. The people that believe that are also the same people that think, we should love everybody. They're very, I think Christians think that too, but they believe in all kinds of human rights. They believe in all these things that you can't really believe if you believe in evolution as the fundamental principle underlying everything that we know and everything we see.
Mhm.
Contradiction, yeah.
Right.
Evolution, you watch nature long enough, nature is awful.
Right.
Nature is brutal. It's like kill or be killed.
That's right.
The strong eat the weak because
Mhm.
they can.
Right.
Like why should we support the weak and the frail and the outcast and the disenfranchised and all that kind of stuff? Why should nature says get rid of them, more for us, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just one of the things I've thought a lot about lately.
We went to Kentucky to see the Noah, the Ark encounter.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Well, let me just say, it took a lot of liberty in the design, but they did the scale according to the Bible, and so
It's awesome.
based on that scale, that ark was gigantic. I mean, gigantic, and so you could see how all the animals that God wanted to be in the ark could have been there.
Wow.
It was so huge, and so we saw that movie recently, part of it with Russell Crowe with Noah.
Oh.
And so I think probably that's more like what the ark looked like
I haven't seen it in a long time.
versus the Kentucky version for the tourists, which was a really beautiful ship. I mean, but the dimensions was there. So that's the thing about the ark. If you go in the ark in Kentucky and you look at the sheer scale, oh my God, it's like a cruise ship size.
And for just one wall, they've got, I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, I've been there, the Bible timeline. And then it's it's so tiny.
The branches.
It's just so tiny. I'm like, what?
And
I have to use my phone just to read it.
Yeah, the pastor that created that and did all of that ark stuff for the encounter. He has a couple of different views on things, but that's not why we went. We went because we wanted to see this ark.
Yeah.
And it was worth the trip.
It was worth it.
You should bring your kids to see this thing.
I think, was it 2020 they said kids go free or something after they shut them down, and then they were trying to, I don't know if it's still the same.
Yeah, and then they got a restaurant there too, which was really good. It's a
buffet?
cafeteria, buffet style.
Nice.
Good food, good. And then Christmas, they do something special with lights and everything, and zip lining and stuff.
They do a ice skating pond, I think.
Yeah, so...
Well, if the world is still open around Christmas time, maybe we'll stop by before 2020.
Yeah, you're talking about an 8-hour drive. You're talking about something like an 8-hour drive or something.
Yeah.
Which
No,
isn't
it's more
that,
than that.
it's not that bad.
It's about 8 to Nashville.
Yeah, it's 8 to Nashville, another 2.5, 3 hours to that.
Yeah, because we were driving to
Yeah.
Ohio,
Yeah.
which is 16 hours where we gotta go.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, before the hard drive here runs out of space, and hopefully my phone didn't shut off over there with the video.
Oh, I know, huh?
But we've talked about a lot, and
Yeah, we have.
we're on the second hourglass flip here.
45 minutes?
And I'm not sure
About
that we
45.
actually turned it. I didn't start it right away,
Yeah,
and then you flipped it.
Is it
Yeah.
still going?
I don't know how long it had been done.
probably a couple, 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah, it's still
probably
going.
at.
Y'all probably bored by now, but whatever.
I don't know they're bored. We gotta leave them wanting more, right?
I'm
Well,
just
you come
kidding,
back
y'all.
and we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, we'll do it, and we'll do some more. We'll go to Copeland's, and we'll bring the pie. We'll bring the cheesecake from Copeland's.
Ice cream is always good too, right across the street.
Yeah,
Ice
but,
cream,
do you
ice
like
cream.
cheesecake?
I definitely prefer ice cream,
Okay.
I want that honey.
but
ice
there
cream.
are some cheesecakes that are pretty amazing. So
Did you have the Copeland's cheesecake?
I have not had Copeland's
They're
cheesecake.
very, very good.
I've only been there once, and I had I think like a shrimp salad, shrimp something, Gulf shrimp, something like that. And then I think they got Copeland's when I came out to visit in February. My wife and I, we had dinner,
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and they got stuff from Copeland's.
Yeah.
That was good too. So. But
We're talking about food. We
We're
had
bringing
lunch. We had dessert. And we're still talking about food.
It's
We gotta
Louisiana. That's what we do.
Yes, Louisiana is every. I hear people talk about food. Yet churches, Christians is always revolving around food. Louisiana takes that to another level.
because we love
They
it.
do.
You know why? Wait, you know why? You know, we talk about food so much and the Northerners don't. Because I've been up north and they don't have that good of food. And us down here in the South, we have the best food. So, of course, we're going to talk about it.
You don't get the same
How's
variety
that move?
everywhere else.
It's different.
You don't
Yes,
get the
it
same
is.
variety everywhere else. Yeah.
Look, I made red beans and rice for Christmas up there one year. And
Oh, my God.
It was the first thing gone.
We didn't know how it was going to be received, but everybody swapped like a huge pot this big.
Gone.
People ate the red beans before
There's
the
still a
turkey,
whole
the
turkey.
ham.
Still a whole ham.
Yeah, like it was crazy. And now people say, man, I could go some red beans and rice. Having it one time.
Hey guys, thanks for coming in. You want to bring in some cheesecake? I'll eat it. You want to bring in some red beans and rice? I'll eat it. But right
Oh.
now, I'm full. I can't even talk about food anymore. So,
Hey, can we sign off the way we sign off at karaoke? It's clean, I promise. This is for my
Maybe-
mother-in-law.
You're
maybe
gonna
I
have to
haven't
walk
seen
over
that
there and
you
do it.
sign
No,
off.
no, this is for my mother-in-law. This is for my mother-in-law. Because when I do the karaoke, it's from a movie, but it's clean. You ready to do it together?
You do it, so go on.
Bye.
That's it.
Taste and see that the Lord is good.
Amen.
Amen.
Dessert is sweet. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is sweeter. Later, y'all.